Hi everyone, and welcome to another Flight Deck to Sim preview flight. If you're new to the channel, I'm a 737 training captain, examiner and instructor on the 737 series, and this channel is all about showing realistic procedures to enhance your flight sim experience. Today we're in the pre-release version of PMDG's soon-to-be-released 737-800 for Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, kindly provided by the team. Now this update doesn't just bring compatibility to Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, but it includes a whole host of upgrades and changes, some of which we'll explore today. Now, as this is a pre-release build, there could be the odd bug here or there, but seeing how the PMDG 737 has matured in Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 over the past few years, it's probably the most complete 737 out there in any simulator. Now, no doubt we might see some minor issues, but I'm sure they'll quickly be resolved prior to release. Now, the exact release date and pricing is yet to be decided by PMDG, but you could expect the aircraft to be available early December 2025. Now, to test things out, we'll be flying from London Stansted to Geneva as Chanix 1472. This is a high-density variant of the 737-800 with 189 seats, and we'll be following real-world procedures based off my operator. So here we are in the cockpit. This is live time, live weather at the time of recording. We're due out at about just under 20 minutes. Our scheduled departure is 11:30 Zulu, and we've got the lovely INI build Stansted scenery in the background. And one of the benefits I get on my personal PC in Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 is improved performance. So despite the fact we've got a 4-year-old PC with a 3080, I'm getting about 30-35 FPS, which is pretty good for a high quality add-on like this, with complex third-party scenery as well. So let's get the aircraft all powered up. Battery could come on, close the guard, GPU's on the bus, and you might have well noticed that there's different sounds. There's a whole new sound update that's come with this add-on. We'll obviously hear that as we progress to Geneva today. But we're just going to follow real-world procedures and explore those features on the way. So, battery on, GPU is on the bus, electric hydraulic pumps we can turn on, landing gear lever is down. We then check all the ship's library and the aircraft documentation to make sure it's up to date. Let's do the fault and fire test. So, we'll check the squibs. We have 3 green lights to the left side and 3 green lights to the right side. Faults detector. We'll do the wheel well fire warning checks first. So we've got the bell, engine overheat lights. The fire warning light would have illuminated as well. And the fault test, we've got fault AP detected up and the overheat detector is on as well. Reset the master caution up on the overhead panel. We'll pop on the emergency exit lights. Haven't been pre-fueled yet, so that seatbelt should be off, and we'll test the tend button. Flaps are up, which match the indicated position just here. We can now do a quick config warning check. The cargo fire warning test is coming up. Forward aft discharge, green lights, fire warning light and bell is illuminated. And the pedestal's pretty much set up for this stage. Manual gear extension door is locked and closed. Check the circuit breakers are all in this side, and working our way up onto the overhead panel, we've got the voice recorder on. Stall warning test. Typically have to wait 4 minutes of AC power until that works, so we'll try that later. Mach airspeed warning test. Flight recorder is tested. No other cautions illuminated. EEC is on. IRS to nav. Verify on DC, then align, which comes on after a few seconds. There we go. And then we check the circuit breakers on the captain's side, and then check the emergency equipment tech log. The aircraft is currently fully serviceable. There we are. The safety inspection is complete. So now we're pretty much ready for boarding. We'll go here to GSX. The Simbrief flight plan's all synced up. We'll request boarding here. And we'll obviously have to go with jet2.com as we're flying as Jet2 today. So just whilst the process starts outside, we've got all of these additional features. The whole cabin's being built from scratch for each variant of the 737-800. I'm going to let you explore most of these features when you get the aircraft, but things like in the cabin is a lot more detailed. Things are flickable and you can click. So for example, the door you can close, the number pad works. I think if you try to move the door open, there's someone in there. So it's little features like this that work. But there we are. Here's the 189 seat variant. Obviously, it's not in Jet 2 colours, but no doubt custom liveries will become available in time. There's the door open with the passengers start. We'll start boarding in a second. You've got the ability to control cabin lighting as well. Passenger services coming soon. Additional features in time, but you can control the lighting, or you can leave it in the automated cabin lighting position, which we'll do for today's stream. Right, we'll get the tug attached and we'll continue getting the aircraft set up for our sector to Geneva. So back in the cockpit, we'll get the pre-flight setup complete now. Just got the latest and latest weather. It's a nice morning here in Stansted. Lifetime live weather, of course. We've got winds from the west, 10k, no clouds, 6 degrees. QNH is 1013, and the QNH is already set. We complete the light test at this stage, so we'll put that up to test. We can check all the lights on the overhead panel illuminated. On the MCP as well, did a light test for the autothrottle and autopilot faults as well. That's on Jim's side. The light test is complete. We can then check the oxygen as well. So you've got the push to test here. Make sure that makes the correct sound. We have a slightly different oxygen mask fitted to our aircraft, so you're testing the emergency function 100% and normal as well. Now, the tablet's all synced up with my SimBrief flight plan. The ability to move the tablet around is a really nice feature. They've slightly changed it with the 2024 variant, so I actually use this feature now to load the flight plan. And the idea is for this video that we use all the features within the aircraft instead of using the Navigraph Charts app as an overlay, so we can do everything in the plane, which we would be doing in real life. So QNH is set 1013. Here come our passengers. We'll set the MFRA here as well in case of an engine failure, which is 1342. I'll speed the video up whilst I set that. There we are. MFRA is set. We'll just make sure traffic is selected on both EFIS panels at this stage. And the lighting's all configured and set, and the pedestal, we're not on VATSIM today, we'll just leave the radio comm set to this frequency, and we'll set up the pedestal later. Now we can start loading up the flight management computer. So remember, always start on the ident page, make sure you've got the latest AirRack installed, which I have. We're in Stansted, so Echo Golf Sierra Sierra, and we go to the next page, GPS left to put in our position, route, and go to flight plan request. Of course, we have full SimBrief compatibility. Why that's showing a slightly different page, I'm not so sure. I'll put in select. Okay, looks like the route has loaded in, so I'll press load now. Make sure we've got the correct call signs. We're going to be Chanex 1472, so EXS 1472, which I'll type in now. EXS 1472. We'll activate the route, go to departures, runway 22, Clacton to Echo, departure arrivals this side, ILS runway 22 we can expect later in Geneva. We'll select the Akito 3 Romeo and the Sapri transition route and execute. There we are, so the routing's all in, and again you can step through that in the tablet by going here, making sure the waypoints all match up. And as a gross sort of error check, you can see the ground distance here is 552 miles. If you go to progress, you can see 548. So it's about the same. And we'll have to get some fuel loaded to see the estimated fuel on arrival in comparison to the reserves fuel later. So on the Perfinit page, we can now start filling in all this information. Again, you can get that all from the tablet. So if we zoom out here slightly, scroll up, you get all of the estimated weights, but you can line select key this to have it pre-populated. So 60.9 reserves for our alternate of Zurich. It's going to be 2.7 tons. Cost index, we use 30 today. Cruise level, have a look at the flight plan, we're going to be at flight level 350. We'll punch that in here. The cruise wind, we'll put in the top climb wind, which is 321 at 29 knots. The average wind, what we do is go to legs, route data, and the first waypoint after top climb will be 30, and we'll put the average wind in, which is 260 at 25. That's executed. Back to init ref. And we'll go to the M1 limit, and now we can complete the performance calculation. So we'll go to the home page, performance tools, standard runway 22. From our position here, we'll most likely do a full length departure. So we'll leave the flaps on optimum, rating on optimum, import the latest weather conditions, and import the actual weights from the aircraft right now. Press calculate, and this is showing from full length. We can go TO2, which we can select here with an assumed temperature of 33 degrees, and the M1 will be 89.3 once we get the AP bleed on. And takeoff, flap 5, CG we can put in now as well, 24.9, which gives us a trim of 5.3 units, which we can set here. With the flaps in the up position, the trim wheel runs at the slower speed. With flaps extended, it will be twice as fast. And now the V speeds we can set here from the tablet as well, which is going to be 143, 143, 147. Those V speeds are all set. Don't forget to set V2 on the MCP here. Now, that's the FMC pretty much loaded. We can pop the tablet back in its holder, which is here, and we'll do the rest of the configuration of the panel. So, check all the flight control, spoiler, and alternate flap switches are guarded. Yaw damper comes on. Nav transferred, space switches, verify they're in normal and auto. Fuel, check the cross-feed valve. Bright, dim, bright, and off. Fuel pumps we can turn on. Cam utility, IV galley powers on. AC/DC metering panels all set, and we can start the APU as well, because we'll need the bleed on for engine start, and window heats we can pop on. Electric hydraulic pumps on. That's all configured and set. Pax auto. Cruising at 35,000 feet. The elevation in Geneva is 1,400 feet, so we'll set 1,400 feet on the land out. The lights are all configured and set. Right, for the MCP then, we'll pop on the flight directors, and we'll imagine we have our clearance on the Clacton 2 Echo, which I'll brief in a second. That'll be a stop altitude of 4,000 feet. The runway heading here in Stansted is 222, which we'll set here, and we'll leave the course set to 222 as well. There we are. Auto brake to RTO, reset fuel flow, and the ISFD is set up as well. FMC for departure. Pilot monitoring will have the legs. The pilot flying will have the takeoff page. Trim is all set, and the radio tuning panel is all configured and set for departure as well. Let's commence our briefings, and then we'll aim for a on-time departure. So for the briefings, we've checked the route already, and the ground distance matches. The fuel on arrival, if I press the progress page now, is 3.4. Our reserves for Zurich is 2.7, so we have sufficient fuel. The rest of the briefings is obviously you do as two pilots. You cross-check the instrumentation, do your emergency briefings, the events of what you do in the event of a rejected takeoff and engine failure. Taxi briefing then, we'll bring up the charts for that. So if I go to my electronic flight bag, press the charts icon, go to departure, and to the airports, just scroll down here. I think I've got them pinned already. There we are. So airports, perfect. So we are on stand 52 left, push back onto the Charlie East line. Very short taxi, yes, go Charlie then Sierra. Full length runway 22, and our SID will be the Clacton 2 Echo. Again, we can utilise the ability to move this tablet by selecting the little screw here. On your EFIS panel, go to plan, zoom in, and then we can brief the SID. So go to legs. You can see here, if we make this expanded and zoom in, we can see all the points with the tablet and step through them as well. So straight ahead, runway 22, Sierra Sierra Whiskey 0 max 210 knots. So we might have to delay flat retraction to ensure that we comply with that speed restriction. This is an RMP departure with a radius to fix of 1 point, or radius to fix turn with an RMP requirement of 1. So you have to ensure that we don't overshoot this. So use LNAV, comply with the speed restrictions. Once that first turn is complete to Sierra Sierra 03 will then be inbound to Sierra Sierra Echo 06, and then it's a track of 085, we've got 086, stop altitude of 4,000 feet, and then we can accelerate to 250 knots, maintaining 4,000 feet until we get to 23. We can climb then to 5,000 feet and then 6,000 feet. Now you can see it says 60 in the FMC. If you just put the transition altitude to 6,001, we'll then go to the legs page and see that it does say 6,000 feet inbound to Clacton. So it's all set up. We can put the Clacton VOR 114.55 on standby in case we use RMP capability, and then we can just route inbound to the VOR. There we are. So we sort of completed the briefings, taxi, and the SID. What we can do now is get the APU on the bus and the APU bleed on, and we are now ready for push and start. Okay, ground equipment's removed. We can remove the chocks. Oops, forgot to set the parking brake. Don't make that mistake in real life. And we should now be able to commence the pushback. So we'll bring up GSX. Obviously none of this is available. Continue pushback. And we want to be on the Charlie East line facing north. So we'll select that.
Release parking brakes, please.
So before start checklist, below the line, packs off. Anti-collision light is on, parking brake will release momentarily, and the transponder is in the out-off position and on. There we are, parking brake released. 3 minutes late, not bad, so we'll now commence pushback.
All engines clear, start at will.
Okay, pushback has commenced. Let's start now engine number 2. So there are some new sounds with the PMDG 737 for Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, which you'll notice with the engine start. So we'll move the switch to the ground. We have N2. Just make sure that we have the correct FMC page here. Oil pressure, N1. Hear that lovely bass. Start lever to idle, and let's listen to the engine sound from in the cockpit. Yeah, very, very good. Obviously, you're quite far forward in the cockpit as well. The cockpit doors closed, so this is probably as much as you hear. Let's have a little listen outside. I think it's definitely improvement over the previous sounds. Whether it's good as the Boris sound pack, I'll leave you to decide that in the comments section. Right, good start engine number 2. Let's now start engine number 1.
Unlocking gear.
Alright, looks like we've got 2 good starts. We'll just double check the parameters. So
Truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed.
M1's on 20%, EGT around 400,
Left is
N2
clear. Right
around
is clear.
60, and the the fuel flow, we're saying fuel used, that should be on rate. So there's a little bug already stuck on the fuel use page where it should be showing rate, but we're looking for around 300 kilos an hour per engine. We'll have to imagine that's the case. Right, good. So we'll just wait until we've seen the bypass pin from the ground crew. There it is. Tug's gone. You'd be asking a lot of questions though right now as to where the tow bar is. I should think it's at the front of a tug. We wouldn't go anywhere until we actually verified where the tow bar is. Probably stuck on the front still, yes, with some quite interesting wheel spin going on and tyre skidding. But there we are, GSX. Let's do the before taxi flow. So generators on, APU off, start switches continuous, pro heat on, anti-ice off, air conditioning, packs auto, isolation valve auto, APU is off. Let's go flaps to 5. Now, one of the things I've noticed with this update, click spots for the trim, which is really nice. You can just simply press now where you'd like the flaps. So there's 5, 15, 5. It just makes it far easier to quickly get your position set. Let's now check the flight controls. So full forward, full back, left, and right. Here comes the rudders, full right and full left. Great. We'll push recall and blank the lower DU, which I've already done, and the before taxi float is complete. Okay, well, imagine we've got our taxi clearance. Always make sure you've got the charts up for taxi. So we're on Charlie East line. It's going to be simply Charlie Sierra, hold short runway Sierra 1 for runway 22. So we'll put on the turn off and taxi lights, release the parking brake, do a quick config check. So we advance the thrust levers fully and then straight back to idle, and then back to around 30% just to commence taxi. There we are, we're moving. And as it's a very short taxi, we'll start the before taxi checklist. So config we just checked, flaps we have, go here to the takeoff page, 5 with a green light, stab trim 5.3 units set for departure, takeoff briefing, so PAX auto, bleeds on, V-speed set for departure, 42, 43, 47 set on the MCP. The departure is going to be a Clacton 2 Echoes, basically climb straight ahead, and we're going to make a left turn inbound Clacton, climbing to an altitude of 4,000 feet. NADP2 EOCID will climb straight ahead to 1342, bug up, and then retract flaps on schedule, level off at 3,000 feet. There we are, that's all good. Don't forget to turn the seatbelt sign on, and the cabin is secure. There we are, we're fully ready for departure. So one thing I've already noticed, which I always complained about regarding the PMDG 737 in 2020, is taxiing. There's already been an improvement in 2024, but it now actually taxis as I'd expect it to. So it's not very jerky, there's plenty of inertia, and I can actually turn on a dime. So if I start using a bit of rudder here, obviously you'd be using the tiller in real life, but I don't have a tiller, so I've connected the tiller to my rudder pedals. It travels really nicely with idle thrust, as I'd expect it to at this gross weight, without any noticeable deceleration. So it's certainly improved, and I've been trying to do some tighter turns, so if I turn tightly like this, I can actually turn as it's expected. Not sure what's going on here. That didn't happen in my test sector. There's a considerable dip. This isn't here in Stansted in real life. Right, okay. Nicely modelled with the shock absorbers. A good demonstration of that, I suppose. Oops. Yes, make sure when you're next taxiing your 737 you don't go off-roading like I did just there. Right, we'll hold short of runway 22 at Sierra 1, and we'll get the wind and then we'll depart. So just got the latest surface wind here at Stansted. It's 270 at 9 still, cleared takeoff on the Clacton departure. So once we've been cleared takeoff, we'll put all the lights on, strobes, auto throttle and LNAV, and transponder to TARA, make sure it's on, and the weather radar too. So MCP is all set, transponder, TARA, strobe lights are on, landing lights on, cleared takeoff, runway 22. So I'm going to turn on my yoke camera here, and I've always noticed how aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator don't handle quite as I'd like it to. It improved with 2024, and I have to say the PMDG 737 is handling really nicely, as I'll demonstrate on takeoff here. So there's a noticeable deadband. So for those of you who watch my videos frequently will know that the rotation technique on the 737 is 2 to 2.5 degrees per second. Just before you get airborne, there's a noticeable increase in back pressure required to keep the rotation rate going to 15 degrees. That is very much apparent in 2024, which is great to see. And we'll do some general handling briefly at 10,000 feet, see how the aircraft handles as expected. Anyway, there we are. Pop on the camera, and we'll just start the recording as well. If I can get it to start here in the background. There we are. And start the timer too. So elapsed timer is on, start the chronometer. So we'll spool the engines up to 40%. I have to say the engine acceleration up to 40% is very realistic. There we are, that's all stabilised, push toga, set takeoff thrust. Okay, definitely changing sounds. I'd like a little bit more whine from that CFM personally, but not bad. Okay, airspeed's alive. Checked, release forward pressure, throttle hold. A little bit of left rudder coming in for the crosswind. Up we go. So there's the back pressure, and there's the increase of back pressure needed to keep the rate going. Very nice. Positive climb. Gears coming up. And we'll pitch up to follow the flight directors to maintain around V2 plus 20. There's LNAV. Yeah, very nice. Speed trim systems activating to encourage me to get back into the in-trim condition. Excellent. And we'll bug up. I have to say the flight director commands are super realistic in the PMDG. Okay, above the white bug, V2 plus 15, flaps 1. And we're going to have to hold flap 1 just to maintain that 210 knot restriction because the upspeed's slightly above it. There we are. So nicely in the turn, we could engage the autopilot. Now, at my operator, we typically wouldn't be able to select vertical speed on the departure with flaps extended, but in this case we can because we are autopilot engaged and we're being held by this 210 knot speed restriction. So what we're going to do, love those glare effects, as we approach 1 to go, is select vertical speed and we'll dial in 1,000 feet per minute. And by reducing that rate of climb, it just reduces the risk of any potential TAs and even worse RAs if there's traffic just 1,000 feet above our cleared altitude. Let's have a little look outside. Absolutely stunning. So the turn's now complete. Well, imagine ATC has given us free speed. So what I'm going to do is bug 250 knots as we're now accelerating, and above the flap 1 speed we can go flaps up. We'll just level off at 4,000 feet to complete the after takeoff checklist. The automation behaviour, very nice. Out acquire, out hold, flaps at no lights. We'll now complete the after takeoff checklist. How to do that is you put the gear to the off position, auto brake to off, turn off the start switches, no icings required. Taxi and retract lights can come off. Check the air conditioning and pressurization. So the diff pressure is 1.8, pretty steady. That's all set. Press attend to release the cabin crew, and the altimeter's QNH1013 maintaining 4,000 feet. After takeoff checklist complete. So it's unlikely you'd stay at 4,000 feet the whole way here. ATC would give you step climb based off traffic. What we're going to do is initially climb flight level 100. So that's set. And you can go VNAV. However, it won't climb because there's constraints in the FMC. So you've got the 4, 5, 6 and 6,000. So don't forget to push out intervent to delete them. One push will delete one constraint. And when you delete the last one, you'll get N1 VNAV speed. And don't forget to set standard. We're passing 4-0 for flight level 100. The after takeoff checklist is complete. And we'll continue climbing to flight level 100. And we'll just do some general handling exercises to see how the aircraft behaves in Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 in comparison to the real aircraft. Okay, so we've just levelled off at flight level 100. We're just about to fly south of Colchester. Looking absolutely beautiful Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. And yeah, we're just going to do some general handling. These are some little exercises we do during the type rating, so candidates get used to the feel of the aircraft. So again, I'll just turn on my camera so you can see what I'm up to. So, you know, first thing I'm going to demonstrate here is turn off the auto throttle and disconnect the autopilot. It's just see the thrust pitch couple. So with the underslung engines below the centre of gravity, I'm not going to make any pitch input here. If I just reduce thrust to idle, watch what happens to the aircraft. This is just showing you the physics working in the simulator. So speed's reducing, and there's the pitch down moment. Now, if I add a lot of thrust quite quickly, spool up time's a little bit too quick there, but you can see here, as those underslung engines start adding thrust, not only does the aircraft accelerate, but you start getting quite a large rapid rate of climb development with absolutely no pitch input at all. So that's all very nicely modelled. Just as I mentioned, the acceleration of the engine may be a little bit too quick. Let's just get settled back down to flight level 100 as we continue towards Clacton. And just reduce a bit more thrust to get back to 250 knots. The aircraft's very slippy, doesn't want to slow down when the wing's clean like this. And we'll get pretty much in trim again. Next thing we're going to do is look at how the aircraft's sort of pitch responds to turns. So we're pretty much in trim there, back at about 250 knots. And we're level. And again, I'm just going to roll the airplane, make no pitch input, and we should start seeing the aircraft descend. So there's 25 degrees, no pitch input. There we are, the nose is beginning to drop. There's a master caution, that would be for off-schedule descent. So again, this is all really nicely modelled. These are things which you did see in 2024, but I think the general handling of this is far nicer in 2024 as well. Now, whilst I was talking, you might not have noticed when I go wings level, the aircraft starts climbing, so that's really good to see as well. Lastly, let's just check the secondary effects of rudder. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of right rudder in, and the aircraft should roll. So there's some right rudder, and look at the aircraft beginning to roll. That's the secondary impact of that. Now, I'm going to do it to the left, but I'm actually going to give it a bootful this time. This is something you'd never do in the real aircraft. So here's a bootful of left rudder. Boom, roll. Very, very nice. And then the nose will drop rapidly as the roll is introduced. So these are features which previously I only really noticed in X-Plane. A little bit better in Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, or not as good, but in 2024 these effects of flight controls are far improved. Right, that's the little bit of general handling complete. Just to check all these effects. Very impressed. We'll engage the autopilot command day, and we'll continue climb to our cruise level of flight level 350. So that is now set. We can push out at event. And don't forget to re-engage the auto throttle. N1 LNAV VNAV speed, and we'll do the pre-cruise checks. So once we're above flight level 100, we turn off all the lights that face forward. Verify the APU is off. Check pressurization. 3.2 climbing, and that is all set. We can release the passengers now. We've finished messing around. Do a recall. There we are. Pre-cruise checks complete, and as we're climbing up to our final cruise level, just check 350 set on the overhead panel and the MCP, and on the climb page, there we are, flight level 350 is checked. So accelerating to 297 knots, that's our econ climb speed. I'll give myself a nice little shortcut direct to something like Bhopal. So go to the legs page, Bhopal, bring that to page 1 left, execute, LNAV's available, LNAV's engaged. And as we continue climbing, we'll explore some of the additional features with the PMDG 737 in Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. So nicely inbound to Bhopal now. Now, as previously mentioned, the cabin and interior had a nice update. I'm going to leave a lot of the features for you to explore when you get the aircraft yourself, instead of showing every single one here. But cabin, you can see, is very nice. I think the seats do have screens at the back of them, but this is the first time I think we've seen high density configuration with the PMDG 737 in any Microsoft Flight Simulator. So we've got the 189 seat layout as well, and again all the cabin lighting can be controlled very nicely. I'll let you explore it further yourself. Back into the cockpit then. So as mentioned, the flight model has been completely updated and changed to refine handling characteristics as well. I've had a further play around with it. I think I'll do some streams in the future with some more gnarly conditions, strong crosswinds, and see how the aircraft behaves. Never been that great in Microsoft Flight Simulator, I've found, any aeroplane, but I think in 2024 I can get a real idea if it's working closer to real life as well. The flight deck updates have been expanded, so loads of additional features, changes of the clocks, different systems as well, the transponder system as well. There's loads of additional stowage interaction too. One thing I'd like to show you regarding the sounds, if you click this, there you go, you've got a little bit of a noise reduction headset on as well, so if you're on VATSIM, you have a far more realistic sound you'd expect if you had your headphones on in real life, which is pretty cool. Now, we didn't do a walk around today, but there have been further exterior improvements. My understanding is the freighter variants have a brand new, fully modelled cargo bay interior, so if you like doing your freighter ops in the 737, that will be you all catered for as well. And there's little system refinements as well. We might not see it here, but in the cruise, things like when the toilet flushes, you might see a very slight change in the clabbing rate as there's pressure disturbances from that. Again, it's not something we're really monitoring in real life, but things like that have been added to add more immersion. So that's a real brief highlight of some of those features. You'll find more information in the PMDG forum. What I'm going to do is continue climbing to flight level 350. I'll speed up the time compression slightly, and you can meet me prior to top of descent as we start setting up for the approach into Geneva. So welcome back, guys. I've continued southbound towards Geneva. Just get the heading mug updated. Not that I can enjoy the view much today. Very overcast, cloudy conditions. However, I have just got the latest weather conditions for Geneva as we fly just to the west of Strasbourg. Not too bad. We've got variable 2 knots, 10k, fuel at 3,800. Temperature 9, QNH is 1014. So I'll preset the QNH here, 1014, and we'll start setting up the approach. Now, always quite interesting weather radar returns in Microsoft Flight Sim. We'll sort of ignore those. I wonder if I can actually turn down the brightness of it here as well. It is model actually. We wait patiently for realistic weather radar in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Maybe one day, but we'll imagine that it is clear as it looks like it is out the window. Right then, to set up for the approach, go to the descent page, forecast. You can use the sim brief generated winds, sort of simulate fetching them from ACARS by selecting the descent wind request, and when that loads in you can just execute it. Otherwise you have to go to the flight plan, type them in manually, which is what we do at my operator. There they are, they're ready, so we can press load. That will load the winds in, and we can execute. We can also type in the QNH of 1014. Now, I looked on flight radar, they're currently landing on runway 22 in real life, so we'll go to the legs page, select runway 22, put that in the fix, and for situation awareness we can put in 3 times our height of 35,000 feet, which is going to be 105 miles. That's roughly where we expect to commence our descent, so we'll punch that in here. You'll see the top descent slightly beyond that, because obviously we're not flying a straight line, but it's just for situation awareness. Beautiful day, so we'll plan to configure gear down flat 15 around 4 miles and around 10 miles. We'll make sure we're doing around 200 knots with flap 1 selected. So the star we're expecting starts at Quito. Again, we'll utilise the fact that we can move the tablet in Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. Select the tablet here, arrivals, star. I pinned it earlier so we could see there is the arrival. We'll expand that and zoom in, go to the plan page, and we'll commence our arrival briefing. So if you go to legs, because we've got plan on the EFIS panel, we can step through each waypoint individually. Starting at Quito then, we're going to Golf 518, Bolgi, Licro, we've got to be Ator above flight level 80. It then actually takes us towards Dinig, Sovad to the south, and we have max 250 knots, 8,000 feet. Golf 507, then we fly downwind, and after Golf 514, max 220 knots, we've got to fly a radar vector. Now there are potentially plans for shortcuts. I've never actually flown to Geneva in real life. Now there is potential to actually have this completely shortened and get a direct routing here, terrain permitting. So what I'm actually going to do is, after 518, route direct to 514, which takes out this continual, or this whole base leg here. So if I go here, direct to 514, and put that after 518, you'll see this change at the estimated altitude, all the way down from 22,200 feet. Having a bit of effect, look, to 12,800. That's a 10,000 foot height difference. Now, I don't know terrain permitting or if ATC would permit this. I'm going to do it, and at the planning stage we can put this hard altitude in of 12,800. Now what that will do, it will bring the top of descent far closer to us. In fact, if I go here to the map page, we've got VNAV out engaged, and look, we've actually just passed that top of descent point. So what I'll do is start commencing our descent now by, let's say, setting flight level 200. Obviously this would be by ATC in real life. And then we can push out into vent. Now, we actually have the common VNAV version of VNAV logic here. So what this does is, if you're high on profile and select VNAV, it won't dive for the path, it'll actually go VNAV speed, maintain this Mach number, and then this indicated airspeed, and it will stay on that until it captures the path. So we'll leave that in initially, and then I'll probably utilise speed brake once I've completed my briefing. So that's the start sort of briefed and catered for regarding the shortcut. The routing is all in here. Sometimes there can be comments about shortcuts, but I can't see anything here. Let's now brief the ILS approach for runway 22. So we'll expand the display here, go to approach, ILS 22. So always start at the top of the briefing strip to get things configured and set. So the ILS frequency, if I zoom on in here, you can see it's 108.7. The clarity on this tablet is fantastic. So 108.7. 108.7. We have the Geneva VOR to tune as well, which I don't think is actually on this chart. So actually, no, there's nothing to tune here. The missed approaches are based off that. We've just entered icing conditions, so we'll put on the engine anti-ice in descent. There we are. Next we need to set the courses, 223. It's only 1 degree difference to what we had for departure from Stansted. That's great. Height check at 4,000 feet at Golf 808, which is just here. So go to the legs page, check that. Golf 808, 4,000 feet. And then we have a 3 degree ILS, which checks in the FMC, and then we have to set the minimums. Now, we check the missed approach climb gradient. In most cases, you'd be able to manage 4.2% single engine. So the minimums will set of 1,565 feet, which is only 200 feet above the ground. So go here to minimums. Now, I have the WinWing MCP and EFIS panel. It's not yet compatible because the aircraft's not been released yet. So actually, if you want to do it quickly, you go here to your minimum selector, drag it, and that will allow you to do it in 10-foot increments as per the real aircraft, which is actually a really nice feature. And then we can fine-tune that 1565, which I'll set there. It's a bit fiddly. Sometimes it goes to the 10-foot increment. There we are. So there we are. The frequency courses and minimums are all set for the approach. Obviously, the threats of terrain are around here, 10,600, but we're sort of... we'll accept that shortcut, imagining we're under radar control later. And the missed approach will initially climb to 7,000 feet, tracking 223 to Golf 803, and then make a left turn direct to Sapri, and then probably vectors in real life. So there we are. The briefing is complete. Let's now look at the landing performance. So for the performance, we'll go to the performance tool, landing en route, import the aircraft details. Our landing weight's quite heavy today, and import the latest weather variable at 2 knots. We'll press calculate. So based off an order brake setting of 3, we're going to stop at 1860 metres. We have almost 4,000 metres available. So go back to the tablet here, to the electronic flight bag. We'll get rid of the approach chart. Go to airports, and we can see here the runway length available for Stansted, but forget to go to your arrival. There we are, arrival, airports. I thought I pinned it here. Oh no, I pressed the wrong one, that's why. So airport, there we are. So we're going to plan to vacate at Delta for runway 22, which is great for the performance we've selected. And from Delta, we'll go straight out onto stand 43 here. Now, from my understanding, there's been a GSX update. So if I go here to GSX, oh, not available when flying above 10,000 feet. I thought you could now select the arrival stand, so I have the latest version updated, but maybe I need to be below 10,000 feet to do that, but never mind. Now, briefing's all complete. The flaps we just need to select here, so landing weight will be about 64 tons or whatever the performance calculator said. Performance tool landing on route 60, yeah, call it 64. Flap 30, order brake 3, and we'll go second detent reverse. Now, we've not been monitoring the descent here, so what we'll do is, as we're in VNAV speed paralleling our path, we'll introduce a little bit of drag. So we'll move the speed brake to flight detents. There we are. That will increase our rate of descent, especially our speed of 270 knots. You can see it increasing now. And then when you're back on path, you'll notice VNAV speed will transition to path. It will stay in arm, and then we can stow the speed brake once we're back on profile. So we're just capturing the path now. It's going to convert from VNAV speed to path. There we are, and we can now slowly stow the speed brake. And that path, as we did earlier, is based on us being level at 128 at Golf Golf 518, which allows us to accept a shortcut to Golf Golf 514. So we'll continue descending. Once we're at that point, we'll give ourselves that shortcut, and we'll descend to flight level 120, which is now set. And meet me next at Golf Golf 518 for that shortcut. Okay, approaching flight level 160. Be a good time now to turn the seatbelt sign on. And I've just heard from Geneva Approach. Said, oh, Chanix 1472, you're number one after Golf Golf 518. You can route direct to Golf Golf 514. Fantastic. These are the sort of shortcuts you can expect when it's very quiet. So, Golf Golf 514, there it is. And we'll then go after 518. There's the shortcut. Execute. Can delete that planned restriction, execute again, and I'll get rid of the vector because we can also told to expect SAPRI afterwards. Let's see how the path is. It shouldn't be too far off what we've planned. There you go, we're only 200 feet off, and that's because we planned for that shortcut at after Golf Golf 518, and we can continue down to flight level 120 and further descent to flight level 80. The weather's looking very dramatic outside. The weather radar is showing red returns over there, which was not forecast at all. But we'll make sure the engine anti-ice is still on, which it is. And we'll, after routing Golf Golf 518, go to Golf Golf 514, flight level 80, and next thing will be at 10,000 feet when we do the post-cruise checks. So approaching flight level 110, we're above, we're below 10,000 feet aerodrome level here because it's 1,400 feet in Geneva, so we'll do the post-cruise checks. We're in VNAV on path. The first green dot is the point at which we'll decelerate from 273 knots to 250. So post-cruise checks, we'll pop on the fixed landing lights, turn off, we'll leave the engine anti-ice on as we're going to be in clouds, and the angled bank, don't forget to set 25 degrees. Check the pressurization again, diff pressure 3.5, and set, belts on, recall, no faults, there we are. The post-cruise checks are complete, and we've just passed the green green dot on the D, and you can see, look, VNAV is now planning that decel to 250, or did I leave it at 240 knots? Yeah, 240 knots below flight level 100. And it does this all with idle thrust. The 737 VNAV's system is one of the most efficient on any Boeing aircraft, and if planned correctly and you don't get messed around by air traffic control, you can actually go from top of descent in your cruise right down to sort of 4 or 5 miles with the thrust lever completely at idle, and that's the most efficient descent you can possibly get. But anyway, let's continue inbound to Golf Golf 514, and then we'll start configuring once we get to the next decel, just before that waypoint. So just approaching that decel point now, I thought we'll just give GSX a quick go. Now we're below 10,000 feet. There we are, that's looking good. So what we'll do is go Geneva, and you can now select your planned parking stand, which is really nice. So I think it was South Apron, and we said we're going to take, let's just double check the gate here, go to airports, parking stands. It was stand 43 or gate 43. This is a nice feature, and we'll use Swissport International. So that's all planned and set. We'll double check the live weather as well. It's definitely on live weather, because it's not looking as I read. So we've got the charts selected here. Let's just go here to home. Variable 2 knots, 10k, few clouds at 3,800. Hopefully it'll improve as we continue southbound. Anyway, drag required. We'll give that drag a second. We'll step down to 5,000 feet, which is now set on the MCP. set the QNH with a 1014, and passing 8,400 for 5,000 feet, the standby altimeter is set. And we've already got the glide slope indications alive here, so we're decelling to our up speed, looking good. The glide slope indications are really helpful because it gives you a good idea where you are, even though we're outside of the operational coverage area of the ILS. But it gives you a rough idea if you're close to your path or not. So, distance to run, we have 25 nautical miles, elevations around 1,400 feet, so we're going to lose about 6,500 feet. So that's looking good on the mathematical side of things. 3 times your distance here should be roughly your altitude. And we're now on base leg, so we'll continue descending. It's sort of, if you look here with such a clean wing, it's not really slowing down anymore, so I'm going to help the aircraft out by selecting flaps 1. Open the speed window. Notice how it stays on path with the approach logic and common VNAV. And VNAV, I have to say, the behaviour of the aircraft so far has been exceptional. Remember, this is a desktop simulated aircraft we're talking about here, but it's been almost identical to what I'd expect with the real aeroplane. Very, very good. There we are. Flap 1 is selected, and we have the indications on the leading edge and trailing edge, so we'll go flap 5. Match the speeds. And the aircraft should be turning final momentarily. Nice little hint, if you select approach on the standby ISFD, you can always see the glide slope indication. On the PFD, it only appears once you're within 90 degrees of your final approach track. So as we turn now, you'll see the glide slope pop up. There we are. And now we can use vertical speed to finesse onto the glide slope. I'll just set 500 feet per minute. Localizer alive, so alarm Vorlock initially. Localizer captured, so runway heading 223. There's a click spot here, I believe, to sync the heading. I think it could be one of these. I don't want to push it. There's definitely one to do it, but I don't want to push Toga and start going around, so we'll set 223 manually, but you can sync your heading now. There we are, and approach is armed. Glide slope capture will be coming up momentarily. There it is. Missed approach altitude 7,000 feet. Is set. So I probably configured the flaps a little bit early, just to be conservative on the approach, and we've got a good headwind here as well. But generally speaking, once you're established on the glide slope, turn the engine anti-ice off, we don't need that on anymore. Once you're established on the glide slope with flap 5, the aircraft will pretty much go idle thrust and maintain the speed, which has always worked really nicely in the PMDG 737 in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. No doubt, as you can see here, it's working perfectly in 2024. So the flap drag model is perfect in this aeroplane. Right, so we're fully established on the ILS. You would have done the approach check as prior to that to make sure you've got the correct idents, which we have, and we're nicely established with this approach. I'm not on VATSIM, but for some reason I've got some traffic contacts on the TCAS, although they've just disappeared. I've absolutely no idea what the traffic could be. Anyway, let's continue the approach. I'll hand fly this, see how the aircraft feels as we get a little closer to the runway. Alright, coming up to 9 miles. Yoke cam's on, so we're going to hand fly the rest of the approach now. So we'll disconnect the auto throttle and get the thrust fine-tuned. Disconnect the autopilot and cancel the warning horn. And at this stage, it's just very small changes onto the flight directors and continue descending onto the ILS. Now, typically for efficiency reasons, we'd configure gear down flat 15 at 4 miles. As I'm flying a multi-crew aircraft single pilot, I'll probably configure a little sooner, maybe around 6 or 7 miles, but only little control column inputs required and changes of thrust to maintain this speed. The scenery, absolutely beautiful. This is Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 stock scenery. We've got some Geneva scenery as well installed for this tutorial flight. Absolutely beautiful. Right, we'll probably configure at around 5.5 miles. We've got a 13 knot headwind component. Conditions are nice and smooth. Variable 2 knots down at the threshold of runway 22 in Geneva, and let's drop the gear down. So gear down, flap 15. I can match the speed, and this is where I've got to sort of let go of the control column. Unprofessional, but to configure the aircraft. Start switches are continuous, recall is checked, speed brake, it's arm green light, landing gear down to green, auto brake set to 3, adding a bit of thrust to maintain the gear down, flap 15 speed. Nicely in trim. Okay, flap 30, speed below 175, VREF plus 5 knots as the wind's light and variable. We're looking for around 1 degree altitude, 57%. I'm having to pitch down. The inputs are fantastic. So flaps, 30 green light, lights on, cleared to land, checklist is complete. Sensational. Alright, so target thrust a smidge higher than I expected. Having said that, what was our landing weight? Not quite trimmed there. 64 tons, actually, we're very heavy, so around 59-60% is actually pretty much bob on. So on localizer, on glide slope, the flight director guidance on an ILS is very accurate, so all you need to do is follow the flight directors. That's checked. We'll apply the infamous landing technique you're all familiar with on this channel. Check, close, hold. So at around 20 to 30 feet, we'll initiate the flare by increasing back pressure, reduce the thrust to idle, and hold the attitude so the nose doesn't drop. Good, so 500 feet fully stabilised. We'll continue. Speed's a little bit high, so just reduce a bit of the thrust. Keep the aircraft in trim. Know when the aircraft's in trim because you need no continuous pitch input for the desired flight path. Okay, the speed's just crept up a little bit high, so reduce thrust. When you do reduce thrust, don't let the nose drop. Checked.
Minimums.
Continue. On profile, looking very nice. Look towards the end of the runway at the threshold.
50, 40, 30,
Check.
20,
Close. Hold the attitude. Don't let the nose drop. On the markers. There we are. Speed brake up. Reverses. The rudder's a little bit twitchy. That's a bit of a Microsoft Flight Simism. So speed brake up, reverses 73%. 100 knots. 80 knots. Manual braking. Auto brake disarm. 60 knots to idle. Stay on centre line with rudder. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Geneva. There's Delta next left. You can stow the reversers approaching 30 knots once stopping is assured. And the captain vacating the runway. Turn off the weather radar. Retract lights, which should have been on. I forgot to turn them on. Or blame the first officer. And there we are. We can taxi straight onto stand, which is just here. As planned, stand 40. There's all the equipment. GSX working really nicely with the ability to pre-select everything here. So first officer actions. Once vacated, transponder to out off. This is where it gets hard in a desktop simulator on your own. Flaps to up. Again, you can use that click spot. Just press 0. Flaps will go all the way up. Trim to 4 units. Speed brake stowed. Captain's action as well. Turn off the flight directors. 7,100. Set that to 100. Check the system page. Auto brake to off. Thrust idle greater than 30 seconds recall. Don't forget to start the APU. A very short taxi. To steady, start switches off, probes off. There we are, and we're straight on to stand. There's the marshal already. Master caution, anti-ice, that'll be for the probes off. Don't come hurtling in, otherwise the marshal gets very nervous. Hopefully we've timed the APU start nicely. We have 3-minute cooling for engines after touchdown as well, so we won't shut down the other engine. Or both engines until that period of time. Turn off the approach mode on the ISFD. Get ready to stop the aircraft when the arms are crossed. Oh, look at that. Right, parking brake is set. APU, just like that, is available. Oh, Can't teach it. 2 blues, 1 red. Check your 3 minutes, which is pretty much there. Engines dead. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Geneva. Well, that concludes our preview of the PMDG 737 in Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. I hope you found that interesting and learned something new. In the video description below, I'll provide a link of all of the new features you can expect when this aircraft launches, hopefully in December, for you to fly in Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. I've always loved the PMDG 737, and I think it's just further improved into the simulator. And this is now the perfect excuse I've been needed to have to uninstall Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. Anyway, I'd appreciate any comments and feedback in the video description below. I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. But if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest content. And I'll see you all on another live stream or video very soon. Cheerio!